And then secondly, the other thing can be resources, especially in the government space as well. You'll find that you've got good intentions, you want to implement this, but where you are sitting, there's no infrastructure. For an example, I always go back to the case management system where I'm saying, we want to move from the old system of capturing the files. Now you are sitting somewhere in a rural area in Eastern Cape. You are trying to register a case, maybe it's in the police station or Mpele or any offices. But you are running 512K data speed or internet speed. The system can even time out before you even capture that case. So these are some of the challenges that, yes, we are adopting the new system, but we don't have infrastructure. The system starts timing out. It's taking longer for us to search, to link to the main database and retrieve NEO's information. So these are some of the challenges that the government is facing, especially in terms of infrastructure, that can also get vandalized as well. And the technical know-how, which I've already alluded to, and also lack of leadership, when leaders don't even know. We are in a political country where people can sometimes get deployed due to political standing of where we are, but without even understanding the digital transformation, without not even understanding what the government is trying to achieve through the e-gov initiatives. So these are some of the challenges that are associated with digital transformation. Okay, I think the first point of departure is change management. In every organization, when you talk about change, people will resist change. Some will think that because I sit at home affairs every day and process a paper, once we go digital, what will happen to my job?
Yeah.
I sit at the clinic every day and write down the file. Once they implement electronic case management system, what will happen to my job? So I think we need to start with the change management so that the people within the organization will understand that this will improve efficiency, this will make their job easier. And you also need to present the training opportunity as well, that the fact that we want to move to this digital platform, there will be proper training that need to be done. And then secondly is leadership. You need buy-in from leadership. Leadership need to transform. When you can't talk about digital transformation without changing. So as leaders, we need to be digital leaders.
So now, what are the challenges of digital transformation?
Okay, one of the biggest challenges, it goes back to skills, where you are sitting with people that just don't know what need to be done. So you need to train them. And secondly, it can also be resistance to change that we've talked about earlier, to say no one is buying this thing in. We're saying we want to implement ERP, people are saying, we don't know if this will work. So not having buy-in, because the people that just resist change, because remember when we are implementing a new system, they need to learn. They need to go on training. They need to be onboarded. So some people, when they think about that process, they can just resist, in terms of moving to the new systems.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome back to Couch Talk with LHS. My name is Mpele, and as always, I am with Zanele Buthelezi, aka Zanele. And today we are joined by Avhatakali Munyai, who is the Director of IT Service Delivery at the University of Johannesburg. So guys, many companies are transforming digitally, so meaning that they're incorporating computer-based technologies into their organization's processes, into their products, as well as strategies to improve their competitive advantage. So today on our topic, we're talking digital transformation. So Taki, welcome to Couch Talk with LHS. It's wonderful having you here. So before we start, just tell us a little bit more about digital transformation. What is it?
Okay, in a layman language, I don't want to go into technical details.
Yes.
But in terms of digital transformation, the pure explanation is that is the process where companies implement digital technology in order to improve efficiency within the organization. So in the public sector, it's more about improving service delivery, improving the processes, the workflows, and also improve in terms of internal processes and the time that it takes for us to resolve issues or to give services to the citizens. So that is in a nutshell digital transformation.
Okay. So how does, because I mean this is very important, most companies, including public sector, and our focus for today would be on the public sector. So how does it affect the public sector itself then?
So with digital transformation, In terms of service sector, there are two ways where it impacts public sector. Firstly, it's on the service delivery, like I've already alluded earlier, that it improves the services. It improves the time that it takes for us to render certain services. I'll give you an example. The good example is the Home Affairs. That if we move from the typical visiting offices and going through the paperwork and we move purely digital, it means that all the applications will be done online, the approval will be done online, the verifications to check if NEO's ID number exists will be done online. And then the only time the person must walk to Home Affairs is when you are coming through to sign off your document. That's what we can look at. We can also look at the registrations for schools. It's one areas where I think Gauteng they've already implemented. Other provinces they are following suit as well, where the whole application process start from home, upload supporting documents, and then feedback. Everything is done online before you even go and have a contact meeting with the school. So these are some of the areas that are impacted by this digital transformation. And then in terms of the services, it can improve. It will improve. We have seen it in some areas, but there's still area of improvement in terms in the e-government space, where if we maximize the use of technology, we maximize the use of e-forms, we can reduce the number of time. For an example, I give an example that if I have to wait for NEO that is away on leave, I might not even know where my document is sitting, but if the document is online, it's controlled through the workflow, I can see that the document is sitting with NEO approved or NEO didn't approve. I can see that the document timed out while it was waiting for Zanele's approval. So there is an audit trail, you can see where you are. But when we do everything manually, we sort of run everything blindly. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing in the public sector.
So I can just maybe add on to, because I mean, the minute you start talking about service delivery, I'm thinking about a lot of things. I'm thinking about, for example, us as a service provider to, public sector stakeholders or entities rather. When you invoicing, how long that takes, the invoice to be paid, because it's going to be sitting with this person or it gets lost in between and there is no audit trail in that. So it just improves on that as well.
Yes, but if it's an online invoice, even if you are billing a government department, it will go to the first approver. You can see maybe from an email alert to say your document has been approved by the admin person, and then it goes to the second approver. You can even trace where your document is sitting. So these are some issues that we are impacted in terms of doing everything manually. And also document get lost as well.
Definitely.
Document get lost. Building get vandalized.
Yes.
So it's an area where we need to sort of work 10 times harder compared to...
So if we bring it onto the HR space, I mean, the benefit of having digital transformation in terms of the HR space, where we're talking, I'm going to hamper on efficiency of service delivery, because ultimately that's what you want to achieve, right? So it's also giving employees the power. For example, then application for leave, documents get lost in between. If there's certain documentation that is not there, so having workflows for somebody who's applying leave, you can actually trace, and it gives the employees, that particular sense of power to say, I can monitor my own things as well, because I'm given that power to actually have a view or an overview of what's going on.
Yes, 100%. It also goes to training. For an example, if somebody want to go on training, we have to do a manual form, it goes to the next person, and that process can be long. But if it's done online, it goes to the line manager check, okay, this costs align with the personal development plan that we have against them. We approve, and then it go to finance said, oh, there's funds for this is the right cost center. Within a week we can conclude training and people can go on training. So it's a value chain, it impacts a lot of things. Yeah.
Just to also add, it also assists in terms of document retention, because how many leave forms do one has to fill per year, and where do you store those particular documents? If there's things like floods, there's fire in the warehouse or wherever, then you lose that particular information. Then comes the labor department knocking at your door, looking for that particular information, for example, registers. You have already lost that information, right?
Yeah.
So it also assists in terms of document retention. There's a lot of benefits associated with digital transformation, and we are seeing a lot of resistance in terms of the public sector. So if you were to speak to someone, for example, in the public sector, what are the opportunities you would present to them in terms of digital transformation?
Okay, before we go to that one, Zanele raised a very good point to say, you lose track of what is happening. For an example, if everything is done online, because of the AI capability that come with systems like Oracle, ESS, employee self-help system, you can also pick up the trend. For an example, if this person every second day is on leave, you can pull up the report, you can see the trends, you can pick up if maybe there's an abuse of the system. You can also pick up if there's a need for management intervention. For an example, this person every second week, in a cycle of 4 weeks and whatever, they're always out of office, they're always on leave. You can even pick up the issues where this person need to go on medical onboarding, you need to assist this person. So what I'm saying is that because of the availability of data, which we call big data analytics, it helps the organizations, government or private sectors to make decisions. So that data is available for you now to pick up the trend, to make decisions, to implement some of the things that manually you cannot even see what is happening. Yeah. And then what was your question again?
You just had to make that point across. You had, but before Zanele, I'm sorry Zanele, but I just want to add on what you were saying, because it's very true. We're talking about giving the responsibility to the employees. It also gives the responsibility to the managers, because now they're not depending solely on HR. They can print those matrix, they can print the reports and get guidance from HR and then just ask HR to intervene.
100%.
Yeah, I agree with that. You can continue. So back to your question.
So the question was, if, for example, someone in the public sector is listening to us, because we are seeing a lot of resistance in terms of the public sector being transforming, in terms of digital transformation. So if you were to speak to someone in the public sector, what are the benefits or opportunities you would present to them to start implementing these particular systems?
Okay, I think the first point of departure is change management. In every organization, when you talk about change, people will resist change. Some will think that because I sit at home affairs every day and process a paper, once we go digital, what will happen to my job?
Yeah.
I sit at the clinic every day and write down the file. Once they implement electronic case management system, what will happen to my job? So I think we need to start with the change management so that the people within the organization will understand that this will improve efficiency, this will make their job easier, and you also need to present the training opportunity as well, that the fact that we want to move to this digital platform, there will be proper training that need to be done. And then secondly is leadership. You need buy-in from leadership. Leadership need to transform. When you can't talk about digital transformation without changing. So as leaders, we need to be digital leaders. Yeah, we need to move. We are strategic leaders already, but there's an element now of digital leader that need to come to part, where people need to understand that this is the benefits in the long term. And then the good thing about that is that you also improve, the government can also improve in terms of having uniform customer experience. If everything is done online, digital, whether you're in Mpele or whether you're in Gauteng, you're going to have uniform customer experience because the controls are in place, the processes are in place, automation is in place, so you're going to experience more or less the same service regardless of where you are. So I think from the public sector, it's training, the issue of skills as well, because there are people that, yes, we want to adopt this thing, we want to go digital, but we don't know. So there's a skill gap there in terms of training. Earlier when I was having offline discussions, we talked about trainings in the big data analysis. We also talk about training on the cybersecurity, because once you start to work with high amount of data, there's a security part of it that we also need to look at it as well. But most important thing is that training, people need to be part of the change management. You also need to get champions as well, people that will have buy-in on the concept, and then also leadership. Buy-in is very important in terms of transforming. There will always be resistance because some people they see job threat more than efficiency and growing the organization.
Sure.
No, definitely. I mean, when you're introducing something new, there's always a threat to human beings. And then when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, we're talking about, so now computers are going to take my job. There's no trust, and very important, getting buy-in from all stakeholders is key. Change management is key, and as well as training, because I mean you can train, and there's also just the monitoring of the implementation, which is also very important. So just to add on that, then Taki, what are the skills required then for digital transformation?
So in terms of skills, number one, you need to have your staff or government employees, because the interest is on government.
Yes.
We need to upskill them in terms of computer literacy level. They need to be upskilled, because they'll start to capture information on the system instead of just working on Word and Excel. I'll give an example. If let's say we are saying we wanna move from the all system of using files to capture information. So you need someone who will understand the system, somebody that will be able to capture the case up until they fully register the case, and the person get the case number. So there's a level of skills that is needed in terms of training or upskilling the employees. And then secondly, you also need to give them a bigger picture as well, so that they can have a bigger picture that this digital transformation plan that we have as a unit, this is where we are, this is where it's going to take us. When you work with people with a bigger picture, they sort of support the vision and the mission. So it's very important that you also onboard them. You must not leave them behind. And then one of the things that we normally make mistake as executives, especially in the IT space, we sort of leave people behind. We just feel, these people are administrators, and those people, they're very crucial, because remember, whatever they capture, data integrity, making sure that the data is clean, the information is correct, that's going to fill into your information. And that's the data that we're going to use in future to analyze, to check the trends, to see where we are leaking. So if the data that is captured is wrong, it might even impact our analysis. So it's very important not to leave people behind, and make sure that they've got an understanding of the bigger picture. This is what we want to achieve. This is our vision. This is our digital strategy, and this is what we're trying to achieve. And in terms of digital strategy, you also need to have timelines as well. We need to know that year 1, this is what we want to achieve. Year 2, this is what we achieve. Year 3, this is what we want to achieve. This helps the people in the organization to know which direction I'm taking. Yeah, so it's very important.
Okay. All right. So we already touched on the benefits then of digital transformation, which one of them being service delivery, which is our key point, right? So now, what are the challenges of digital transformation?
Okay, one of the biggest challenges, it goes back to skills, where you are sitting with people that just don't know what need to be done. So you need to train them. And secondly, it can also be resistance to change, that we've talked about earlier, to say, no one is buying this thing in. We're saying we want to implement ERP, people are saying, we don't know if this will work. So not having buy-in, because the people that just resist change, because remember, when we are implementing a new system, they need to learn. They need to go on training. They need to be onboarded. So some people, when they think about that process, they can just resist, in terms of moving to the new systems. And then secondly, the other thing can be resources, especially in the government space as well. You'll find that you've got good intentions, you want to implement this, but where you are sitting, there's no infrastructure. For an example, I always go back to the case management system, where I'm saying we want to move from the old system of capturing the files. Now you are sitting somewhere in a rural area in Eastern Cape. You are trying to register a case, maybe it's in the police station or MPA or any offices, but you are running 512K data speed or internet speed. The system can even time out before you even capture that case. So these are some of the challenges that, yes, we are adopting the new system, but we don't have infrastructure. The system is timing out. It's taking longer for us to search, to link to the main database and retrieve NEO's information. So these are some of the challenges that the government is facing, especially in terms of infrastructure, that can also get vandalized as well. And the technical know-how, which I've already alluded to, and also lack of leadership. When leaders don't even know, we are in a political country where people can sometimes get deployed due to political standing of where we are, but without even understanding the digital transformation, without not even understanding what the government is trying to achieve through the eGov initiatives. So these are some of the challenges that are associated with digital transformation.
So how do you get over that? Because I mean, it is a real thing in reality. I mean, when trying to implement new systems, you've got people that don't understand the reasons why, or they don't want to go through that whole change. But how does then the different entities, overcome all of those challenges? Because it is a real challenge. If leadership is not in support, or you don't get buy-in from leadership, then the project is either going to be delayed, because like you said, Taki, that you would need to have deadlines for each and every single process. But if nothing is happening from leadership, then how does government or the different entities rather than overcome that?
I think it goes back to the change management process to say, before we even implement the system as well, let's start with the change process. Let's get people on board. Let's show them the vision and the mission. Let's map the process for them so that they can have an idea that this is what we're trying to achieve. Because once you get buy-in from all stakeholders, it can be the end users, it can be the senior leadership, it can be the executives, it's easy to implement because everyone will understand their role. What is the role that I'm going to play in order for this organization to achieve this particular goal? So once people identify their roles and they can associate with they can sort of understand their roles, it's easy to implement. So buy-in, change management is also important. Once you have done with that, then you can move to training and make sure that you train the relevant people with relevant skills. If we are adopting SEP, they need to go on SEP training. If we are adopting a new system, they need to go on that new system training as well. So it's very important that we get buy-in, we do proper change management, and then we move to training. Training is very important.
Yeah.
I have to agree with Taki here because if something new is being implemented, the first thing that people worry about is my job, right?
Yes.
If I understand the bigger picture to say, this is where I fit in this new change, and these are the benefits that come with this new change, I'm easy to accept and adopt and, be welcoming to the change. Unlike when, for example, management would come and say, okay, now we're moving from paper-based to a paperless system. Then immediately I'm going to start thinking, oh, now it means they no longer need me. That's a strategy for them to get rid of me. Whereas you are still going to be needed, but I need to understand now where do I fit in the picture and where is my growth, because that is also part of the growth that people are looking for when they look for employment. They look for new skills. You're going to gain those particular skills. You're going to move from this particular system to this particular system. You might not have knowledge in terms of the computer system. We start small, maybe it's gaining those new skills, getting new knowledge, so that if you grow and you decide to go work for another company, at least now you possess different skills. So for them to understand, I think it also plays a crucial role to the change management process that she was referring to. Just to also check also, Taki, in terms of implementation, which departments are giving you the most stress when it comes to digital transformation?
I think in terms of implementation, this one I'll just have a general approach. Because mostly when you implement the system, there will be end users, which are eventually the people that will be using the system. So these are people that you also need to make sure that when you implement a new system, there are end user workshops where you talk about the system, the objective of the system. You also need to understand from their side what are the pain points with the current system. What are the kind of outputs that they need? Because with the users, they're interested in the reporting. What kind of reporting are they interested in? So that when you develop that system or when you implement that system, you can customize their reports. For an example, if there's a month-end report that they have to do it manually, you need to prioritize that and make sure that from their system, from the new system, the month-end report will be automated and they will receive it on the last day of the month. So having those user engagements is very important when you work on the system. I'm not talking about the full software development life cycle, but I'm just talking about on a high level to say your end users need to be onboarded, because you can develop a system that is not resolving their current issues. So you need to make sure that you onboard them, you understand their pain point, and you also do as many custom reports as you can, so that they get automated. Unless otherwise, if maybe somebody just needs a special report that you can train them to do. But all these important reports, you need to make sure that they are automated and they are customized and they go through certain days of the month. It also happens.
Can I add to what you were saying, Taki? It's very important, and companies or executives and management also need to understand. Yes, when trying to implement a new system, there is a part of conversations with executive based on obviously what they want to see from, because at the end of the day, executives want reports. They want to see what happens on the system. Most successful implementations that we have done, because we are also business partner to Sage, so we implement systems. Most successful businesses that we've implemented were businesses where all the end users were included as part of the process. Because rightfully so, what are their pain points? What is it that we want to solve that they are doing as well, which is very key. So now with digital transformation, how does it shape the labor market?
Okay. So when you talk about digital transformation, it also impacts careers in digital, which is careers in IT. So it is influencing the market because if you look look at the trends, what happened in the last 3-4 years, especially with COVID sort of being a catalyst, many organizations implemented their digital strategy in less than a year period. Something that they were still calling Vision 2025.
Yes.
They have to implement it because they have to automate, they have to make things happen, otherwise their business was going to stop to operate. So if you look at that also influenced the market, the labor market, where careers like cybersecurity specialists, they are in demand, those people, because once you start to manipulate a lot of data, there's a risk there in terms of threats, in terms of cyber hacking or being compromised in terms of security. So that area or that career, it's sort of it's like now high demand career, if I can put it that way. There's also careers like software development, people like software back-end developers. These people that are in high demand because we are analyzing a lot of data. There's a lot of systems that need to be done. There's a lot of mobile apps as well.
Yes.
That's what I've seen as a trend during COVID time, where everyone want to have a mobile app to order malam hood so that the business can continue to run. So with that, we have to have a lot of developers, and not necessarily traditional developer, the DevOps developer, people that can develop the apps, put it operational, test it, and make it live within 6 months. So these are some of the areas where there's a need for skills. There's also a digital marketing part of it. Before, in the past, people used to do marketing and banners, but because of the digital transformation, it gives rise into the need for a digital marketing or digital officers jobs, where we start to see a lot of targeted marketing. I'm sitting here in Centurion, within 5 minutes, Google intercept that I'm in Centurion. I'm getting an SMS that my way, women that are in Centurion, they get low premiums for car insurance. I'm like, how? How did they know that I'm in Centurion?
Yeah.
So these are some of the market shift that happen where digital officers are becoming very keen. They need to make sure that when I browse in certain areas, there are fees that are forced based on my area, based on my interest, based on my shopping trends, those kind of things. So it really impacted the job market. The traditional careers are sort of fading off, and then there's a rise for new digital careers. We also talk about big data analytics. Throughout my conversation, we were talking about management using data to analyze, management using data to make decisions. So that gave rise into the demand for big data analysts, people that manage and manipulate a lot of data that came through. It might come through sales, through feedback forms, and so there's sort of a shift in the market in terms of skills.
Funny enough, there is a shift. Zanele and I read some interesting market trend into recruitment. This was, I think, last week, where how HR people are, how we are. So if you haven't been in a job for a specific time period, we then say you're a job hopper, when you're recruiting for a job. Here's an interesting thing that we read. So apparently with the IT people, they now, or it's seen as the norm to stay less than a year in a job, and that cannot be perceived as job hopping because of the demand of what they're doing, especially if they're specialists or they in a particular area. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, in terms of job hopping in the ICT sector, I think it's a different game altogether. Because, for an example, if I'm recruiting and I see a guy who's been with the department for 15 years as a cybersecurity specialist, I would be reluctant to hire that person compared to someone who worked for Vodacom for 2 years, MTN for 9 months, and CLC for 3 months as a cybersecurity specialist. I'm more likely to hire that guy because he's been around, he knows the trends, he knows what is happening. So I think in the IT sector, it's sort of different in terms of job hopping versus staying longer with the company, especially for certain jobs where you need people that have been around, you need people that are exposed, you need people that have dealt with different applications and different platforms. So in the ICT space, it's a little bit different. Even though for some senior roles, of course, you have to stay for some time because I cannot walk in today propose a strategy
Yes.
and walk
And then
away.
you don't
So I
exactly,
need to
you don't see
implement,
through.
I need to
Yeah.
see through the strategy and implement it. But in other areas where you talk about software developers, we talk about cybersecurity specialists and other back-end engineers. They don't stay long. And then the other things now that is also impacting that is that there are a lot of offers in the market and also flexibility. There are people that are leaving because I've got a full remote job. I can work from home and then I can go to the office for a hot desk and meet my boss for one-on-one or coffee. You know, those kind of things. So these are some of the things that are impacting the job market where people are just moving for flexibility. There are a lot of incentive out there. The companies are paying well as well for certain skills because of everyone moving into a digital platform. Yeah.
No, that's correct, because I mean we're busy with recruitment of IT jobs now recently, and that's what we got. That first thing that that we are being asked is it a hybrid work, or we expected to be in the office or in the office every single day. If you tell them what the client is looking for and it's not what is aligned to what they want, then they're very quick to say, you know what, please hold my CV until something else comes up. So Taki, another thing, how important is it for IT professionals to upskill themselves? I'll tell you why. It's not, when you go into HR, usually they would require like a degree of some sort, and then you can upskill yourself as in when you want to, and earn CPT points or whatever the case might be. Now with IT, they no longer go into your formal degrees. They might have, let's say for example, entry level or like an undergrad, and top it up with certain programs or courses. Because I mean, things are evolving, so how important is it then for IT people to always upskill themselves?
Oh, that is critical now because the ICT sector is evolving rapidly. And if you don't move, you stay behind. Like Walala Wasala. Yeah, Walala Wasala. 10 past 4. 10 past 4. Boom. Everybody, you are late. Yeah, so it's sort of moving rapidly. And there's a lot of changes. If you talk about cybersecurity, there are a lot of tools that are used in terms of checking the threats in the organization, the vulnerability threats, the monitoring tools. So if you're not upskilling, you might be left behind using the old tools. The same applies to the software developers. When I was in school, we did something like Java and CH, but I know now there's Python. So people that are in those space, they also need to sort of upgrade themselves so that they understand the JavaScript better. They start to go and code on Python and other languages. A lot of changes in terms of databases. So it's sort of an evolving market. It's an evolving market. You need to upskill in terms of so that you remain relevant to the market and you can also be marketable in that space. The same applied to some certification. When I started IT, there were a lot of vendor certification that you do, but after 3 years, Atel V3 is no longer applicable. I have to upgrade and go to Atel version 4. So there's always changes in terms of processes, in terms of principles, in terms of best practices. So it's very important that we upskill ourselves as IT professionals, and we also know what is happening in the market, what is trending, so that you don't invest on skills that are not relevant to the market.
Yeah. Okay, and then just to add on, because for every single thing that you have, there's a responsibility as well. I think you also mentioned on cybersecurity, because when you're introducing certain digital platforms, like you're opening it up for a lot of threats in the organization, it's also very important for companies to also train not necessarily the IT department only, or the end users, people that are only focusing on a specific, but the whole company itself, just so that we can understand simple things. For example, we've had this where, a client would give us, or would have like it's not a course per se, but just emails and, questions that you need to answer, where in terms of if you get like phishing emails and things like that, because for certain people, you would not see, you would think it's legit. So training only the IT department doesn't do as much justice, because the rest of the people would also need to work on that particular platform, or they're exposed to such threats.
Yes, that's where things like cybersecurity campaigns are very important to organization, so that people can know that you don't just click any link, not any link that is prompting you to enter your credentials or your banking details is legit. But I think that there is an improvement in terms of that, because people are aware of being scammed. Everywhere you go, everybody's like, I don't want to get scammed. So I think the message is going through, even though there are those cases where people are still capture it because the site looks so legit, it looks like a standard bank site and everything. But I think the campaigns that are happening in organization and also outside of business, like the banks will tell you, we'll never ask you for your OTP, we'll never prompt you to do this. So I think that message is it's going through across, and even kids, they are afraid to be scammed. You know, even when a call is called, my daughter normally, if there's a call, she got Truecaller. So if she see the number is red, I don't know. Exactly. So that mentality is already there, that hey, there are scammers out there, you just need to be vigilant. But the message need to go through, this can go through monthly campaigns, quarterly campaigns, but we cannot just assume that everyone knows. So the campaigns must be continuous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So how do you see, digital transformation or the IT space evolving in the next decade?
So in terms of this sector, there's a whole lot of changes that are happening now. The focus is more on the AI, which is the artificial intelligence. There's more focus on robotics. There's also more focus on machine learning. So these are the areas that in the next 5 years or so, the focus is there. When you talk about AI, artificial intelligence, everywhere where you go, there's that interaction where you see that a lot in online shopping, where the site can also pick up the trends to say, when Neo log in here, she normally look for this kind, female dresses, size this and this and this shoes. You will find that when immediately you go to that site, that information is feeding. So the AI is the way to go in terms of knowing, picking up the trend from the user and then building some artificial intelligence. So most of the systems, most of the organization, they are moving the AI route just to make sure that they sort of pick up the trend, they sort of plan around what their consumer want. So it's all about understanding the consumers and giving the consumers what they want. So there is that area. There's also robotics as well, where some of the food that we're going to order in the next future will be sent through the robot. If you go to McDonald's, they've already started. You can go to, when you order, you just have to go through the portal, order without interacting with the cashier. Maybe you can just go there to collect their food. So the only element missing now is that once you have done your online order, the robot must now deliver your food. Then that's where we are going as a country, as an organization.
I saw that. Can I say this? I saw that on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
Where I think it was somewhere in America where is it going to survive in South Africa? Before it gets
No, the robot won't get wrong. There must be some fighting mechanism. The robot will have to fight.
I know.
Yeah. So if the robot feels that I'm vulnerable, I'm in danger, I'm a threat, so it must release something. I think that's where
because there's a lot of chances in saying.
Yeah, but there's a whole lot of opportunities in machine learning, artificial intelligence and robotics. Yeah. And my son is in software development, so it's so into this thing.
So it runs in the family.
Yeah, he's so interested in this robotics and machine learning.
Yeah. So now, okay, talking about that, because I know they're now introducing it in schools. I mean, we have a group of schools that are doing robotics for people, learners that are now in grade 3, starting from grade 3. So it is something that's really, very important in the market. So, Taki, for people that want or that are fresh from school and are not sure in terms of what they want to study, if you were to give advice then in the IT industry or IT sector, where or how would you place it, or what sort of advice would you give them?
I'm sort of a pro in terms of promoting careers in digital. So if I have to advise a grade 12 learner, I will advise them to say, even though there are careers in medicine and other areas, there's a good opportunity of growth and good careers that are available in digital careers. When you talk about digital careers, you're talking about your software developers, we are talking about the cybersecurity specialist, we are talking about the big data analyst, we are talking about database administrators, we are also talking about your network guys, because all this information that we're talking about, the analysis, it needs to run in a good infrastructure. So there's a whole, there is still an area for network specialists that we need in order for us to have proper infrastructure, in order for us to communicate. There's also careers that are available in data center management as well. So if I have to talk to a grade 12 learner, I can say, look for digital careers. That's where we are going.
And Also looking at your profile, right? You are also into mentorships and those kind of programs. So if one wants to be mentored, they would like to be involved in the IT space, for example, how do they then get in touch with you, for example, in terms of that? And are there other mentors or programs that could assist them if, for example, someone who's in KZN or someone who's in Lesotho is listening to this particular podcast?
So in terms of mentorship, what I do personally, we mentor people inside the organization. I also do that outside the workspace. So I can be contacted directly on my details, which I think now will publish on the podcast.
Yeah.
And then we also offer guidance in terms of careers to follow, and it's something that I do and I'm passionate about. So, but in terms of internal in the work environment, in an average in a year, we train close to 100 interns. Some they come through the EOH program, MIC CETA program, some they come through YES program. So we offer that workplace experience, which from that agreement, because remember with the training provider, there's a CETA, which is the funder, there's a training provider, there's an organization, which is the university, where we offer, we play as a host, where we host the interns. So average per year, we look after close to 100 interns that they go. Some they get jobs inside the organization, some they leave and then they get opportunity elsewhere. So this is a little that we can do in terms of bringing upgrading people, and also to make sure that we sort of upskill people in the sector, because having theory is one thing, you also need that workplace experience so that you can understand what is happening in the space. I also engage people outside the organization, where we talk about available learnerships. We also talk about some of the courses that they need to do, you know, in order for them to be marketable. I've got a sister that did a degree in marketing, and I always engage her and say, no, why don't you look at digital? Because everything's digital now. When I'm sitting here, I'm getting a news feed that McDonald's, Centurion, they're having a promo and all those things. That's why she went into those Facebook training, and eventually she got a job in the sector and she's doing digital marketing. So that's how the careers are also evolving as well. So we also need to offer that guidance to say, kids are still stuck in the idea of doing public relations. Instead of doing public relations, why don't you do digital marketing? So that you can now digitally market things, you can do the news feeds, you can do all those things. So we just need to give them proper guidance and for them to have an idea what is happening in the sector as well.
Yeah. Is this through the UJ program that you are part of?
Yes, we do that through UJ program, where we mentor them, we give them relevant workplace experience. We also sort of upskill them in terms of interpersonal skills as well. Yeah.
Okay, because you mentioned one thing that obviously with the learnerships, they're not coming directly through to UJ, for example. They come through the specific CETA.
Yes.
Are there specific CETAs that you're working with? Just so that if they are interested, maybe they can go and check their websites just for opportunities.
Yes, so the CETA that we work with is the MIC CETA, but in our case, MIC CETA has an agreement with EOH. EOH being a trainer, UJ being a host.
Yes.
So once the learners complete their theory part, they come and spend 80% of their time at the university getting relevant skills, some in the software development space, some they come and sit with me in the desktop support space, some they go in the networking space. So that's the kind of agreement. So from that agreement of CETA is the funder, service provider, we play the role of a host, where we host those learners for that period. And with learnerships and internships, they spend like 20% doing theory, 70% of the time they spend it with us, getting to know what happens on a day-to-day basis. And that also increases their chance of being employable. Some they leave after completing their learnership, some they get jobs internally, some they become temps, and some they get employed in other sectors, and they let us know that, hey, I'm working for this company. It's fulfilling. I mean, it's a little that we can do in terms of upskilling and making sure that our youth don't end up in the streets.
No, it's very important, because I mean, you know, we always say there's a difference between theory and the practical work. Theory, I use it as a guideline because you are shown the ropes. But when getting into practice, you might be faced with different challenges where the textbook doesn't tell you how the challenges are. Can I just touch the last question that I have is now, because you just raised it on the learnerships, because learnerships are there to assist employees or those candidates to be employable, right? So they need to be done efficiently. Not just to have by word, I'm running a learnership, whereas you find all my learners are making me tea and things like that. Are they sent to different departments of the IT, or is there specific selection criteria?
So what we normally do an assessment with a training provider to say, if let's say I'm taking 20 interns, we have to look based on their interest and their qualifications, where can we fit them, also looking at the course. If they've done the national certificate in IT technical support, we normally put them in the desktop space. In the support space, we also run support in the classroom technology space. So we make sure that they do what is relevant to them, and we make sure that each and every learner got a mentor assigned to them, so that they can check their weekly work, the logbooks are done, and then we can send them through back to the service provider so that they can do their portfolio of evidence. So I'm very strict when it comes to interns. I don't want interns to be running around carrying things that are not even there and whatever. So it's very important that when they come to the workplace environment, they are given the right platform to learn, and also safe environment as well, where they feel that they are safe, they can report it. I've got an open door policy. If there's anything happen, they must feel free to come and talk to me, so that I don't want kids to get violated when they're in the work environment to learn. So I'm very much strict when it comes to that. I always say to my guy, it's not going to happen under my leadership. I don't want these people to work until late. They must work normal hours, have passport, they're leaving. You guys got means. If you are working until late, you can always take an Uber. But these are interns that don't have money. So you need to make sure that by half passport, you release them. So we have created that culture. That's why I'm saying that from 2019 up until now, we have overall, we have trained more than 200 interns. We had issue with COVID where we have to take a few numbers because of sanitization in spaces. But now that we are back to normal, we are, and there's also that ES program as well, that the one that comes via DHET. So we sort of take the one from the CETA together with the ES program interns, and then we train them on different platforms. So I think as UJ is playing a role in terms of skills development, especially in the ICT sector.
No, those are great initiatives. So, Taki, is there anything that you want to say regarding digital transformation, just in closing?
Okay, in closing, I think digital transformation, it is important for government. You know, I'm here to advocate for government to say we need this in the public sector. It will improve the livelihoods of our people. It will improve the quality of life. We have had people who go to the hospital sick, they die waiting for somebody to retrieve the file. So these are some of the areas where if we move everything into electronic case management system, we can retrieve the file quicker. We can assign the person to the relevant team where they can get help. Digital transformation cannot change everything, but it can play a role in terms of expediting and making sure that we deliver quality, efficient, and good service to the community.
Right. So thank you guys. So just to wrap it all up, so what we're saying is that the digital transformation can assist in improving service delivery, and it is key, you know, with the way life is going at this point. So if there's anything that you want to hear regarding digital transformation, please hit us up. Select or send your comments through, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, thank you. Bye.
1, 2,